Nothing Personal starts in 30 seconds. It's just business. This is Nothing Personal.
Here you go. Here you go.
Credible. That's the Nothing Personal word of the day. It is Thursday, January 23rd, 2025. Today's episode is brought to you by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours. I cannot believe that I am sitting here in Cooperstown, New York, and I am leading off today's episode of Nothing Personal, talking to you about the Jacksonville Jaguars. There is so much great sports, business, culture, entertainment. The Academy Award nominations are coming out in 29 minutes during this live show that I won't be able to watch because I'm with you. My choice. We could be talking about the NFC and AFC championship games. We could be talking about some of the craziness in the NBA last night. From 50 points from an MVP. Jokic, is he the best center of all time? Is it really possible that Kyrie Irving hit a three? Is it really possible that the Sacramento Kings didn't cover? But instead, we're starting with the Jaguars because Shad Khan has done it again. First, before we tell you what he did, let me just say, on behalf of all of us, I'm practicing my Academy speech. I'm practicing a Hall of Fame induction speech, which I'll never get to give. But I would just like to say my sincere thanks to you, Shad, because anytime I'm feeling down in the dumps, as though what's going to be our lead the following day? Or is it possible that you're going to do something more with all the gifts that you've given me? And every time you come through. So on behalf of all of us here at Nothing Personal, thank you, Shad. What's the latest and greatest? He fired his GM, Trent Baalke. Out. Let me remind you how crazy this is. The Jaguars are looking for a head coach. You may remember that they're going through a search because they fired Doug Peterson, the guy who won a Super Bowl with the Eagles, who are one game away from getting back to the Super Bowl with a new coach. But I digress. New quarterback as well, a few new wide receivers, a few new guys on defense. But anyway, totally different story. Doug Peterson is out. Trevor Lawrence is paid. The Jaguars are not winning games. And the GM was in charge of the coaching search because this is the GM who had gotten Trevor Lawrence. This is the GM who had hired Doug Peterson, which was really good in the beginning. But then when Peterson got fired, Shad Khan went on a conference call with the media and Trent Baalke. And you may not remember this, but really, those of you paying attention to Nothing Personal, when I show you this clip, 4869, when I show you this clip, you're going to say, oh my God, that was it. Coca?
Head coaching candidate was to say, hey, I think the medical needs to be reevaluated, the health and wellness. If they were to say, I would like to reevaluate the front office and the general manager, what would your response be?
My response would be, how would you improve it? And then if it is credible, you want to do it, okay?
So keep in mind, for those of you not watching live, that was a two box. The voice that you heard was a question from the media who you didn't see. The two box was Shad Khan and the GM Trent Baalke. And Trent Baalke's face when Shad Khan said, hey, if it's credible and the coach wants to come in and have the power, the kind of power that Vrabel wanted and now has again with the Patriots, the kind of power that Parcells wanted and had, Belichick wanted and may have had and then lost, the kind of power that Carroll may have had and then lost. We're talking about coaches who are also GMs. And if they're not GMs by name, they've got the GMs by power. And so what Shad Khan was saying in front of the person who he had asked to do the search, hey, if you find me someone who gives me a credible reason why he should be higher than you in the chain, then I'm going to have to consider that. So picture Trent Baalke. Does Trent Baalke go back to his search? Maybe he calls up Mike Tannenbaum and says, hey, the Jets are taking care of you guys free. Calls him up, says, hey, I want you to find someone, but not someone too strong. We'd like someone slightly weaker because we cannot have the owner thinking there's any credible reason why any coach would want to also be the GM. So we're going to be looking at first timers. We're going to be looking at people who are sort of going to be thrilled just to be a coach. So Shad Khan, the minute he said that, and this is a few weeks ago, Trent Baalke looked at him and said, you know what? You are a POS, but I'm going to stick around for now. And then yesterday, Shad Khan said, following several discussions with Trent Baalke this week, we both arrived at the conclusion that it is in our mutual best interest to respectfully separate effective immediately. Horse hockey. Here's how the conversation goes. Hey, Shad, we can't keep doing this. You cannot keep dangling the power over me to candidates. It's not going to work. If you don't want me to have the power to hire and the power to run this operation, then tell me now. Well, Trent, I got to tell you, I don't really feel good about where we've been. Well, Shad, here's the gauntlet. The gauntlet is if you can't get through leaving me be, then I'm not sure why I'm even here. Funny you say that, Trent. I guess you're not going to be here. And then they go into the announcement stage, which is where they say it's mutual and that this is what they both wanted and that he's got deep appreciation for Trent and how great the 5 seasons were and the entire quote and how deeply committed he is to building a winner in Jacksonville and introducing a new head coach who will make that happen for our players and fans alike. Shad Khan is going about this in a way that guarantees mediocrity. And if that's what you want, you can fire managers and win. You can fire general managers and win. You can hire the wrong coach, get past it, start again, and still win. You can make mistakes with player personnel, get through them, and still win. But when there is a toxic relationship between the owner and the GM, or the GM and the coach, there is no way to get through it. Now, are there examples where GMs and managers do not get along and the team happens to win in spite of that? Of course, but that's not sustainable. That can happen for a season. It can't happen for multiple seasons. When a GM feels as though his power has been usurped, he's got 2 choices. He can just suck it up and be a figurehead GM, or you can say to yourself, I don't want to be associated with this stink, and you can move along. A lot of people are feeling that about the Jaguars. They don't want to be associated with what Shad Khan is doing and the way in which he's doing it. Now, of course, there's only 32 jobs, so you can bet your sweet Pippi that there will be coaches and GMs jumping all over each other to be the head coach and GM of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, keep in mind that there are people who won't want to do it, like the Buccaneers offensive coordinator. His name is Liam Cohen. He was a real target of Trent Baalke, but he said just the other day, just yesterday, he came out and said, you know what? I'm going to go back to Tampa, stay as the coordinator, and I'm going to be really highly paid. As an executive, I find out immediately when a coordinator does not want to be a head coach, when a first base coach doesn't want to be a third base coach, or a third base coach doesn't want to be a bench coach, or none of them want to be a manager. I want to know that immediately. Because to me, and Coca and I differ on this, where Coca's view is, you're Brian Flores, you're a great defensive coordinator. If I'm getting it wrong, Coca, speak up. but you're a great defensive coordinator. Be good being that. And my view on personnel is I never want them satisfied. I always want them trying to get higher and higher up the ladder to eventually running the organization. I wanted people around me who wanted my job. I didn't want to have someone in marketing who just wanted to be in marketing, or a CFO who just wanted to be a CFO, or a GM who didn't want to be a president, or an AGM who didn't want to be a GM. It made me crazy when I was forced to keep a first base coach who wouldn't become a third base coach, but was forced to. Other than that, so this guy goes back to being an offensive coordinator other than versus coaching in the NFL. You got to start thinking to yourself, why? Is that because of him? I'm going to do some work and find out if I'm the president of another team, because I'm going to say he may just not want to be with Shad Khan. And if Shad Khan is recognizing this, then he has to believe that his franchise doesn't have a chance. If it's just that Liam Cohen didn't want to work with Trent Baalke, that's another piece of information. That's another data point that you would get. All I know is that what Shad Khan will have to do is start cleaning the mess, and I don't have any reason to believe he can, other than creating a bigger mess, which means the Jaguars are going to waste years of Trent Lawrence, who may not be good enough anyway, and they're going to go back to being the mediocre team of London and Jacksonville. And so it'll go. Speaking of mediocre teams, hello, Jets fans. I am having a blast today. I can't believe Woody Johnson. He's not second place to Shad Khan because you got to put Jerry Jones in there. But Woody Johnson, you're my jam. I'm excited to welcome Aaron Glenn home as the head coach of the New York Jets. Aaron earned this opportunity through almost 3 decades of NFL experience, 10 with us as a player and a scout. He brings tremendous leadership skills and the vision this organization needs to be successful. I am thrilled to see him lead this team. Yes, you heard it right. Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions, the same guy who gave up 45 points to the Commanders, but I digress because the defense has been terrific. Don't judge him on a game. You're never going to judge anyone on one particular game, no problem. My focus is back to Samson Coca et al. Can you believe? I want to know right now. Maybe Pablo Torre can find out for me. How much did the Jets pay their search firm? How much money did Mike Tannenbaum make for all of the 16 or 17 interviews they did for coaching? Remember that segment where we read off the name of all the interviews? How did the call go to Rex Ryan? That's another thing I want to find out. Rex Ryan was going to be the head coach of the Jets. He asked for the order. He had it. He was already talking about what he was doing with Aaron Rodgers, etc. I want to know how that call went. We're not going to be moving forward with your candidacy, Rex. GFY. I wonder whether that was his response. So they go through all of these candidates, and they end up with Aaron Glenn. I'm not saying Aaron Glenn is a bad choice. According to Bill Parcells, he may be the best choice out there. I don't believe for 1 second that Aaron Glenn, somehow through the process instituted by this consultant, Mike Tannenbaum and his group, I don't believe for 1 minute that that process sort of was the epiphany that Woody needed to realize that Aaron Glenn was his guy. Aaron Glenn, an NFL defensive coordinator? I told you what search firms are for. Find me the special teams guy at Rutgers who no one's heard of, who you have done your homework and say, this guy's Joe Madden. This guy's going to come in and have a long career as a head coach because he's different. He's special. He's Mike McDaniel. Okay, well, we don't want him to be Mike McDaniel, but he's someone who is going to be a value added who you would not otherwise have identified. Telling me that Woody Johnson couldn't have identified Aaron Glenn? You think there's a reason they've had 14 straight seasons out of the playoffs, which is the longest active drought for any of America's 4 major men's sports leagues? I mean, it has to be. The Detroit Lions are in a position where they're losing and have lost their offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator. I'm trying to think of the last time this happened. Is there a chance, Coca, that the last time it happened was with the Rams after they won the Super Bowl? And One of their coordinators went to the Vikings, and who's still there and just got an extension. And I don't know about the second coordinator, but when you have a successful team or a successful organization, you want people to move along. It is a credit to you and what you do. I never wanted to stop assistant GMs or scouts or player development people from going to other teams and moving up the ladder and getting more money, more responsibility. It makes you look good. The coaching trees, that stuff matters. There's executive trees that we talk about in the front office and the C-suite all the time. Where do these people come from? How do we make executives good enough that they can go on and do things at other organizations and be successful? Because that's a reflection of our ability. So I think it's great for Dan Campbell, but then the Lions have to refill. They have to replace two coordinators and not lose their standing as the NFC's best team. The Eagles were another example. Coca's telling me they lost two coaches after their Super Bowl win. That's right. So it happens. The difference is, of course, that Dan Campbell lost in the divisional round, but I digress. Aaron Glenn is a safe choice. Aaron Glenn will net the Lions a third-round comp pick in each of the next two drafts. Remember, this is part of the new rules in football. If you have a minority and that minority gets poached from you, you get a prize. The prize you get is that you hire the minority and put that minority in the best position to succeed. And that success is manifested by getting a job at a higher position in another organization. Very controversial program, by the way, because Aaron Glenn deserves to be head coach, period. And the fact that the Lions get comp picks, they don't come from the Jets, so it's not a penalty for a team who hires. It's simply a benefit. But in the NFL draft, it basically moves everybody down one after their third-round comp pick, because obviously there'd be a team that would be drafting, and now they're drafting one spot lower. It is an interesting debate to have. And when those rules happened, we had it. I'm wondering whether or not having Aaron Glenn as the coach is exactly what the Jets need. Some sort of defensive freshness. Well, I think their defense wasn't really the problem last year. Do you think Aaron Glenn has spoken to Aaron Rodgers? That's going to be next. We haven't heard a peep about this. It's coming soon. It will have to be made clear by Aaron Rodgers, however he does it. He could do it on McAfee. He could do it off the record. He could do it through a leak. The Jets could do it through a leak. It's going to have to be made clear that Aaron Rodgers had nothing to do with this pick, with this coaching pick, which we all know is not how it goes in real life. Aaron Rodgers, of course, knew about Aaron Glenn before you and I did. Aaron Jones was, of course, consulted about Aaron Glenn, but they will deny it. Whether they've agreed to move on from Aaron Rodgers or not, the reality is that he is still under contract, and they did not want to be in a position where Aaron Rodgers was going to do anything to undermine Aaron Glenn as he started his head coaching career. I've started enough new managers off where you've got to manage literally what's going on with your players to make sure that there is no usurping of authority right out of the gate. It's why you beg players to come to an opening press conference. It's why you call everybody. It's why you find out who's living in Miami or in Montreal. It's why you try to do things in a way that shows support. Yes, you pay for players to fly in to be at a press conference because you like the look of it. I'm not against paying players to make it seem as though they're happy. But at the end of the day, players, they don't care as much as you think they do. Aaron Glenn, welcome to New York. What did he have to say for himself? Was it anything good other than this place is special for me? To our fans, simply put, expect a winning team that you will be proud of. Hold on, let me get that from page 6 of the new coach handbook. Aren't you tired of hearing all the same lines? Is it just me because I've been around so long and I'm a little grumpy on a Thursday morning in Cooperstown where it's 0 degrees, but I couldn't be happier to be here for Ichiro and the other inductees today? I'm just asking. When you see the same stuff, do you roll your eyes? Do you laugh? I mean, you can't believe it. Do you really think that Aaron Glenn is going to do a winning team that you'll be proud of? What evidence do you have that the Jets ever are going to do that? I'm telling you, the Marlins are making this move because we want to sell out. We're doing this to increase. We're lowering the prices of our concessions to make our great fans happy. Yeah, it's only in 4 sections. And of course, those are 4 sections where not a lot of people sit. So you'll have to get up and move around to get it. But let me tell you, we are the Baltimore Orioles. We're doing it. God, do we do a lot of things just for the sake of being able to say that we did them. I don't view the Miami Heat that way. I've been struggling with the Heat recently. Pat Riley to me is a mentor, a friend, someone who he's a Hall of Famer, greatest executive, maybe top 5 greatest coach as well. Doing it the Pat Riley way. Much more so than the Cardinal way or the Red Sox way or the Yankee way or the Knick way. Pat Riley has a way. People throw that around too much like it's a street sign. The Pat Riley way is that I'm Pat Riley and you're not. This is not your team. This is my team. And meanwhile, what happens is he gets performance out of players and he gets jewelry. He has a real problem with Jimmy Butler. And we have covered it on this show. And it's rearing its ugly head again. Jimmy Butler gives the quotes post-game a couple weeks ago, talking about there's no joy in Mudville. The Heat suspend him for 7 games. Pat Riley comes out and says, I'm never trading him. Then Pat Riley comes out and says, we'll actively look to trade him. Then Jimmy Butler comes back. He's still not playing offense the way he knows how. He's still playing defense just fine. The Heat are a mediocre team, and Pat Riley is not a mediocre executive. Pat Riley looks at this team, and he's saying to himself, I've got to figure out a way out of this middle. He knows very well the middle is the worst place to be in any sport. You either want to be great or you want to stink. Average will keep you average and get you nothing. So what to do with Jimmy Butler has become one of the big questions that Pat Riley's had to deal with. The media is speculating. A trade happens the other day, and now the media is out of control. The New Orleans Jazz. I don't know what that is, Coca. That's a random Thursday at 8:22, 8 minutes from the Oscar nominations that I can't watch. The Utah Jazz are sending a bunch of first-round picks to the Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns did that trade in order to acquire trade capital themselves. It is clear as day that what Phoenix is trying to do is acquire enough picks to possibly be able to trade to the Heat to get Jimmy Butler. It's been clear from the first rumor that Jimmy Butler has wanted to be traded to the Phoenix Suns. The way it would work in the real world is that the GM of the Suns would speak to Pat Riley or Andy Ellsberg. And when you want a player from a team, you call that team and you say, what do you want that we need to go get? Do we have enough to do a trade on our own? And you would say, honestly, no. We want the following 2 of the following 6 players in other organizations, and they can be minor leaguers or major leaguers. You go get them and come back to us, and then we'll talk about our guy. That sort of open, honest dialogue happens all the time between teams. Would it surprise me if Pat Riley told the Phoenix Suns exactly how much he wanted back for Jimmy Butler, and if they hit that bid, then they'll do the trade? That doesn't give you a competitive disadvantage because you never go to the other team and say you want very little for your guy. You go to the other team and say, go get more than I can get on my own for my guy. You do all the work. You make the calls. You make the trades. Then come back to me and I'll say yes. And then what happens is the team goes back to the Heat or goes back to the team with the asset and says, here's what I got. It's not everything you asked for, but it's the most I could get. Are you ready to deal? And sometimes a team lowers its ask and a trade happens. And sometimes a team says, no, not interested. Go out there and get the last few pieces, then come back to me and I'll see if my owner is still interested. This is not how Pat Riley wants to have Jimmy Butler. This is how Pat Riley would trade Jimmy Butler. The Pat Riley and the Jimmy Butler that exists today is a relationship that people are saying in the media can't move forward. Jimmy Butler was suspended again for 2 games yesterday by the Heat because Jimmy Butler missed a team flight. They didn't have to suspend him for missing the team flight, but they did because they said, quote, he has a continued pattern of disregard of team rules, insubordinate conduct detrimental to the team, including, they should have said, but not limited to, including missing today's team flight to Milwaukee. If you don't want to make your team flight, you have to talk to your manager and team president and say, hey, I'm going to fly myself. Is that okay? I want to stay the extra night in Miami. I don't want to stay at the Pfister. I'm scared of ghosts, whatever the case may be. You cannot miss a team flight unannounced. And by the way, team flights leave exactly when they're supposed to leave. It doesn't matter who's missing. Do you think that the Heat gave Jimmy Butler a different departure time so he would purposefully miss it? And therefore there'd be another reason to suspend him? Nah, that's too easy to get caught. They know Jimmy Butler is going to do something bad, whether it's sitting away from the huddle during a timeout, which I saw on X, and that in and of itself is conduct detrimental to a team. That in and of itself is suspension worthy if you are looking for a reason. If you're not looking for a reason, sitting away from the huddle or being late to a team flight, you wouldn't do a suspension. The Heat and Butler are finished. But that doesn't mean that Pat Riley is all of a sudden going to become mediocre and just trade Jimmy Butler for the sake of trading Jimmy Butler. Who do you think he is? Derek Jeter? The whole point of this Butler-Riley Heat mess, the power play that Jimmy Butler is playing, Pat Riley is not going to give him that power. He understands what player entitlement is. He had LeBron, Dwayne, and Bosh on the same team. He also understands that that player entitlement can lead you into really dark places for your franchise when you wake up one morning and LeBron is a Cavalier. Pat Riley doesn't want to feel that way again, and he won't feel that way again. And how this ends with Jimmy Butler, I told you what I would do. I've told everyone in Miami what I would do, and I've told you on this show. Make him sit. Don't play him 24 minutes a game. Don't even give him 9 shots. Make him come to every game. He wants to opt into his player contract. Great. He can have one more year, a $50 million goodbye, and I'm not playing him for a minute. Nothing. Personal pick of the day. Were you worried about the Kings 8 over the Warriors when they were down by 17 at the half? I wasn't. Were you excited when the Kings had come all the way back to cover right at the end of the game with 8 seconds left? I was. Were you annoyed that the Warriors took a shot for no particular reason to make the final score, them winning by 6? Yeah. Yes, I was. That's what makes us 6-7. So the Miami Heat have arrived in Milwaukee. The Bucks are favored by a touchdown. My one concern about this game is that the Heat are better without Jimmy Butler. They want to get rid of the distraction. There is a chance that they will actually be able to play better. But the Bucks are well rested. Their game against the Pelicans was postponed because of that crazy storm that put snow in the upper Florida and all through the Carolinas, all through Texas. New Orleans, people were ice skating on the street, Coke. I don't know if you saw a video of that. That was crazy. When you're not used to getting winter weather, it can absolutely crush you for days. So the Bucks are well rested. They're back home in freezing Milwaukee. We're taking the Bucks -7 over the Heat in Milwaukee. That is the Nothing Personal pick of the day. All right, let's take a break. Today is Thursday, and we are going to review one of my top 100 movies. And then we're going to talk about something that happened with Netflix yesterday that I think is going to interest you. All of this while the Academy Award nominations are going on live if you've got two screens. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Nothing Personal. We're only 7 days away from finding out if we were able to defend our title with the Sports Podcast Awards. Excited to see if we did. Excited to see if the sporting class can win Best Podcast with John Skipper and Pablo Torre. We'll do another episode of that next week. We love having you reach out to us on davidsamsonpodcast.com. I'm on Twitter at David P. Samson. If anyone is still there, last one out, please turn off the lights. Instagram, TikTok, trying to reach you any way we can. But the best way is just download and listen to the show or watch us on YouTube, Nothing Personal with David Samson. And don't forget to tell your friends, yes, we are watching movies. Yes, every Thursday I review a top 100 movie. That list, and now it's late January, and I still have not redone my list, Coca. That annoys me. I'm sorry. I can't say it's because I don't have enough hours in the day because I hate people. Oh, I didn't have time for that. Yeah, you did. You just allocated your time differently. So let me say I have not allocated my time to redo my top 100. So we are basing this off our current 100, top 100. The Crying Game is number 47. The Crying Game, spoiler alert, has one of the best reveals. No, it doesn't. It's the best twist of any movie ever, including Usual Suspects, including any of the ones that are always listed as the greatest twists. If you don't know what happens with Crying Game, please watch the movie and don't research the movie. If you're one of the people who saw the movie after you knew what the story was, I'm sorry, because I got to watch the movie when it came out, having no idea. What I enjoyed about this past week when I watched it again is that I was able to watch the movie differently, given that I knew the twist. And I don't watch Crying Game often. I've probably seen it 3 times in my life, maybe 4. I hadn't seen it in a long time. And seen Stephen Ree and Jay Davidson, Forrest Whitaker, just thinking to myself, I want to make sure I say this right. I don't know if I have the courage to love anyone who I would love. I just don't know. I don't know if I have the ability to love, period, or to be loved, but that's a whole nother story that is necessary for therapy. But what an amazing concept to just love and be loved in return. The Crying Game. Next week, there's a random number generator, and it generated number 74 on our list. I'm very excited that I get to watch Silkwood. Silkwood with Cher and Meryl Streep. Ooh, that's a true story. I'm going to go back to anyone 50 and older, and that's about 40% of the audience, which we appreciate. When you were on Park Avenue and you were going in the upper 40s when you cut through the right near the Hyatt and right near Grand Central, there's sort of tunnels on Park Avenue that you have to zig in and zig out. There was always a piece of graffiti inside that tunnel that said Silkwood was here. And it was there my entire life, from the time that I was 6 until, I assume, until my 20s or 30s. And I had no idea what it meant. And then I saw Silkwood, and it always became very meaningful to me. I bet you there's someone listening, of course, who knows what I'm talking about. In any case, I'm excited to watch Silkwood. Let's move on to Netflix. Boy, how do you feel about your Netflix? Are you good? Are you okay with the price increase? The ad tier going from $7 to $8, the standard going from $15.50 to $18, premium going from $23 to $25. How do you feel? Are you worried that all these streamers are just going to keep increasing their prices? Do you not get value when you get to watch back in action? and say to yourself, oh, I would have paid $20 for that alone. Everything else I watch is free for the month. Am I the only one who looks at what I pay at every channel and then decides as I'm using them, oh, this month is paid for because I just took advantage of this documentary on Mubi? Check. Amazon Prime, forget about it. That's the easiest one ever. I need toilet paper tomorrow, for crying out loud. Access to movies, Apple, not even a question. Every time I watch, whether it's Ted Lasso or Bad Sisters or any of the shows, Bad Monkey, Severance, check. Netflix. Every time I watch a crappy movie, I say to myself, my God, when is the Kevin Hart deal going to be done? How many more in the Sandler deal until he gets back to doing movies like Click that are brilliant? I have high hopes for Happy Gilmore too. Just watching Jake Paul against Mike Tyson, that alone was worth it to me. There was a very interesting announcement yesterday that Netflix got 19 million extra subs, and they believe it's mostly due to the Paul Tyson fight. They've got over 300 million subscribers. Their co-CEO, Ted Sarandos, met the media and met investors and informed us that we will no longer ever hear the number of subs and the sub growth that Netflix has. You see, Wall Street takes that sort of information and they tend to boost or demolish a stock price based on what your sub growth is. And this goes back to the PTSD of the cable industry, where subs were going down, cords were being cut, value was being lost, companies were going bankrupt. What Netflix is telling Wall Street is, listen, you may want to base your decisions on buy, sell, or hold on sub growth or lack of sub growth for other companies. But let me tell you, that's because they don't have the revenue growth that we have. I want you to judge us based on our revenue, based on our profit, based on our sales. And the reason why they're saying that to Wall Street is that they have profit. When you see companies announce sub growth as a way to hopefully help their stock price, it's because they keep losing money every quarter and they don't want Wall Street to reference the losing money part. They want to keep believing in, hey, as long as we keep building subs, we're going to be fine. One of the earliest economic lessons I ever had, and I have tried to impart on everyone, any speech I give, I want you to picture starting your own business. And I want you to picture that you make anything. A widget is the famous word that we use. And what's a widget? A widget means anything. And it costs you $5 to make every widget. And you're only able to sell the widget for $4. Do you agree that's a bad business? That you spend $5 and you make $4 for every widget. There are many companies and many Wall Street analysts who want to hear that company say the following: we may spend $5 and make $4, but we're going to make that up on volume. And the joke of that is that the more widgets you make at $5 and you still can only sell them at $4, instead of losing $1, if you make 100 million widgets, you're losing $100 million. You can't make up loss that you have in your operation with volume. You can make up loss with expense savings coupled with revenue growth. If it costs $5 to make the first widget, but then $4.50 to make the second, $4 to make the third, $3.50 to make the fourth, then we're starting to talk about a business. But the majority of businesses, when you look at what they have, and sub growth is a great example. You are buying content if you're a streamer. You are buying rights to leagues to show live sports. You're putting on one-off events. You're doing shows, comedy shows. You're making movies. And you've got a budget of what your expenses are. And what you say is, We have subs who are paying $20 a month. But if we had more subs paying $20 a month and we didn't do any more content and we kept our costs the same, then our financial fortunes will change. Well, guess what we've learned? On the content creation side, the expenses continue to go up and up. The number of things that are created that are crap that no one wants to listen to or watch, but are just done because of first look deals or done because of production deals signed with a company or a celebrity actor. There's not enough sub growth in the market to make those companies profitable. It's why all these streaming services are so unprofitable. And Netflix has been the one that's always been profitable. And so what Netflix finally decided today is forget it. Do not categorize us with those other financial losers. Categorize us differently. Let our stock price increase with a talk and a conversation about actual profit. The other thing he said was really interesting to me. He was talking about sports and something that we talk about on Sporting Class with John Skipper that I've talked about my whole career, that we believe live sports is where it's at. And I still believe live sports is where it's at, but Netflix has a slightly different take. Ted Sarandos' take is that live events are where it's at. Sports can be a live event, but that's not what happens when you buy the rights for a full season or a package with MLB or NFL or NBA. That's doing a rights deal with a league to get a huge number of live events, not a one-off. He said yesterday, if there was a path where we could actually make the economics work for both us and the leagues, we would certainly explore getting rights. But right now, we believe the live events business is where we really want to be. That's bad news for leagues. While the NFL and NBA just did their new media deals, at some point they will end, whether it's in 10 years or 11 years. MLB is going to be looking at new media deals shortly. MLB may be in a situation where ESPN opts out of its deal after this coming season, and MLB will be looking for a partner, and having Netflix as a potential buyer is critical. Is Sarandos just posturing? I don't think he is, because it has long been known that the league-wide deals that are done by certain networks, by all the networks, ESPN included, in today's market, with the way people are consuming content, the opportunity to lose money is far greater than the opportunity to make money. It's going to be fascinating to see what happens going forward. How's the Dodger hate going? Everyone good? Everyone calm? Are we good? Roki Sasaki is with the Dodgers. Are we over it? Kirby Yates, relax. Tanner Scott, everybody get your heart rate down. Roki Sasaki met the media yesterday. I'm glad that he did it yesterday. Today is all about the Hall of Fame inductees and the press that they will do here at the Hall of Fame. CC Sabathia and Billy Wagner and Ichiro are here in Cooperstown, ready to get their tour and be fitted with their cap and jersey and meet the media and revel in the reality that they are Hall of Fame inductees now. Roki Sasaki met the media, and he said some stuff, Coca, that really did shock me. Now, Japanese players have interpreters, and the interpreters are really good at what they do. So Sasaki, through his interpreter, said, when asked about why did you join the Dodgers, he didn't mention anything about the payroll, the money, the existence of Ohtani or Yamamoto. He said the number one thing that stood out about the Dodgers was the stability of the front office. I'm sorry. I need to, 1 second. I want to get that again. The number one thing that stood out about the Dodgers was the stability of the front office. What does he mean by that? Is that like Ohtani in his contract saying that if Mark Walter ever sells the team or Andrew Friedman's never the GM, that Ohtani has the right, if he wants, to opt out and become a free agent? I was the president of a team for 18 years. I had 2 GMs, Jim Beattie, and then when we moved to Florida, Larry Beinfest from 02 to 13, Mike Hill from 14 to 17 to the end. What does it mean, stability? I'm just trying to understand. When a player comes to a team, every time I have met with a player or an agent, every time, and it's hundreds and hundreds of times with hundreds and hundreds of players, not one time did front office stability come up. Not one time. I want to make sure I know who the manager is. They say, I want to make sure, are you going to be able to have payroll to make sure you can build around me if I'm making $40 million? That comes up. Hey, what are you going to pay your manager? I want to make sure he's going to be around. And by the way, I love you so much, GM, who I've just met. You're my guy. Listen, I like Andrew Friedman like the next guy. But if you think that Andrew Friedman is the only one who could be the GM of the Dodgers, then you're crazy. You're not thinking straight. You're going to sign with the team because you assume they're going to have the GM forever? What, are you in love with Stan Kasten? How does that happen? Mark Walter? What if he does sell the team? All of a sudden, the Dodgers are going to go from spending money to not spending money, and you're worried that in your career you won't be able to win? Here's the good news. Sasaki's contract is only 6 years. He's a free agent after 6 years. Mark Walter's a young guy. He may sell. Andrew Friedman may want to retire. Do you think Andrew Friedman feels, oh my God, I can't retire? What would I do to this city? We could lose Ohtani. We could lose Sasaki. It's a nightmare. I'm going to make sure that I continue to live this crazy life where I don't necessarily see my kids the way I want to, which some people choose to do, and that's fine. Hi, my name's David. Doesn't make it right or wrong. It doesn't necessarily fill you with regret. It's the reality of the jobs that we all have or choose to do or not choose to do. But I definitely ask you, why is it that there's a player who would be coached, counseled to say that? It doesn't pass the smell test to me. Now, it is true that Ohtani and Yamamoto were involved in the recruiting of Sasaki. They took him to dinner, according to multiple people. Unclear what it means to have Mookie Betts and Will Smith join Ohtani and Yamamoto to sell Sasaki on being a Dodger. Don't know what that means. Not sure that any player needs other players to sell them on a particular team. In this case, the reason why this is taking on so much import is that people are wondering, did the Dodgers do anything nefarious? It's not nefarious to have Ohtani and Yamamoto at a meeting. It's not nefarious to do videos or to explain why his velocity is down or to say there's going to be front office stability. MLB is not interested in any of that. And as I told you the other day, MLB is not interested at all in finding any sort of problem with what the Dodgers did because they want Sasaki on the Dodgers. What's the problem with the honest approach? What's the problem with just saying, I wanted to be with the Dodgers? It made more sense for my career to be with the Dodgers. And then just give a little wink and be on your way. You think that the commissioner's office and the other teams don't know really what's going on? The question is, how much will be made public? The question is, how big an impact will it have on next year's collective bargaining agreement? But this is not in any way going to deter any of these investigations. What Sasaki said today is not in any way going to change anyone's view of what took place. What, you think it's solely because that there was front office stability? I can't. I'm sorry. I'm glad that he's a Dodger. I'm glad it's done. I'm glad that the focus is now on Ichiro. I'm glad that he met the media. I'm glad that Andrew Friedman said that the plan is to have Sasaki pitch from the outset of the season. They're not going to delay him and curb his workload. I'm glad that we know that Sasaki's journey to sign with the Dodgers started 6 years ago when he was in high school. Guess what? 30 teams were on Sasaki when he was in high school. May not have told the other teams, We all have Japanese contacts. We all know where we stand and whether we have a chance to get a player. When it comes to doing these sort of deals, there are teams that are at an advantage for a particular reason, and we all know it. No matter how much we protest, we're doing that to save face publicly. We're doing that to make sure our fans know that we're doing the best we can to build the best team and for you to have the most hope that we can get any player we want. Of course, we don't have the right stability, so we wouldn't have been in the market for Sasaki. But that said, there's going to be another one. Because when it comes to player acquisition, it's just business. We'll be back tomorrow. This is nothing personal.